Hello everyone, welcome to the session. Namaste guys. Hello Sukoon. Hi Rahul. Hello Ritik. Hello Isha. Hi Sushri. Sia, welcome to the session. Hello Shweta. Hi Arpit. Hello Ritik. Welcome to the session. Guys, I hope everyone's doing well. Okay, come on guys. Let's get started with our session. I can see that today all of you are getting ready and excited to get started. ठीक है, अगर किसी का नाम मिस हुआ है क्योंकि मैंने I started the session before and it aired a little 30 seconds baad. So if I've missed out anybody's name, really sorry. But once again, guys, everyone, welcome to the session. Good evening, Saurav. Hello. Hello, guys. Welcome to the session. Okay. So I hope everyone's doing good. Yes. Okay, so today's session is an important session, guys, because this is a kind of RC passage that we have never done before so far in our sessions. So it was something to do with research. Okay, so ये passage जो है research based है. It's to do with healthcare sector and the research in healthcare sector. And the questions, especially the reason why I picked this passage, of course, is because of the genre. But another important reason why I picked up this passage was because of the questions. अगर आपने questions देखे होंगे, all 4 of them are CR based questions. Okay, so I hope all of you have tried it out. If you have not tried it out also, it's okay, because we'll be doing it together. Okay, we will be discussing it together. I'm good, guys. I hope everyone's doing good too. Okay, 4 months to go, guys, for the CAT examination. And I'm sure that आप लोग अच्छे से prepare कर रहे हो. Your preparation is in full swing. But also in a day or two आपको एक video मिल जाएगा मेरी तरफ से, where I've discussed month-on-month plan for the CAT examination. Yes, Sushri, of course. I think आपने mention किया था, इसीलिए I always tell you, please tell me which are the topics that you want me to take classes on. तो आपने बोला था कि मैम PYQs पे लो, तो इसीलिए ये Saturday, guys, 5 PM को marathon session होगा, wherein we will start with a PYQ marathons. Okay, so this Saturday जितने भी must solve PYQ questions है, I'll be picking them up and taking them in our sessions. So इस Saturday part 1 है, and I want all of you to attend that. Okay, good evening Neelu, welcome to the session. Yes, sorry, because it's also very like healthcare. Okay, if it's day-to-day life, it's fine. But this was something to do with statistics and research regarding healthcare. So इसलिए थोड़ा सा confusing हो गया था. Okay, right. चलिए guys, कौन से group की बात हो रही है? Come on, let's get started. So और भी अगर आप चाहते हो कि मैं topics पे कोई classes लूँ, तो make sure करना कि आप ये गूगल फॉर्म में वो टॉपिक का नाम मेंशन कर देना जिस पे आप चाहते हो कि मैं क्लास लूँ, एंड आई विल अरेंज 100% फ्री सेशन ऑन दैट टॉपिक. एंड नॉट जस्ट मी, इट ऑल्सो अप्लाइज टू आशीष सर एंड अमित सराना सर. ओके, राइट. चलिए, लेट्स गेट स्टार्टेड गाइस. सो दिस वाज द पैसेज. ओके, हेलो यशराज, वेलकम टू द सेशन. हाय सतीश. चलिए, लेट्स स्टार्ट. सो क्वेश्चंस A1 लेवल के क्वेश्चंस है, क्रिटिकल रीजनिंग के क्वेश्चंस है, काफी कुछ सीखने को मिलेगा गाइस इस पैसेज से. सो चलिए करते हैं. नाउ इफ यू हैव लुक्ड एट दिस पैसेज, लेंथ इज मोर और लेस द सेम. देयर आर 5 पैराग्राफ्स. 5 पैराग्राफ्स मतलब हमको थोड़ा सा स्कोप आएगा स्किमिंग एंड स्कैनिंग का, बिकॉज पैराग्राफ्स के लेंथ्स भी थोड़े थोड़े लेंदी है, तो थोड़ा सा रेपिटेशन हो सकता है या थोड़े से डिटेल्ड डिस्क्रिप्शंस हो सकते हैं, तो वहाँ पे हमको थोड़ा सा स्कोप मिल सकता है स्किमिंग एंड स्कैनिंग का. लेट्स सी. ओके, लेट्स स्टार्ट. चलिए. Economic theory provides a powerful but incomplete guide to the empirical determinants of healthcare demand. Okay, if you've read this passage, you will understand that the first para and this first line is basically the entire passage. This is the central idea or the theme of the passage. The entire passage is about how economic theory relating to healthcare is powerful but incomplete, and the entire passage, subsequent paras, basically tell us ki what is incomplete. Okay, to the empirical determinants. Empirical over here refers to, let's say, statistical determinants of healthcare demand. Now, how do you determine कि healthcare के लिए क्या क्या कितना कितना demand आएगा? What are the determinants? What are the factors? Health economists generally assume that the demand for healthcare derives from a demand for health. So they believe कि health से healthcare का demand आता है. We consume health services as either an investment in our future health to cope with some chronic illness or recover from some acute illness or accidents. Rarely medical care is availed simply because it is enjoyed. Now I think all of us can relate to this idea. ये बोल रहा है कि health care services के लिए, जैसे for example it could be anything like visiting a hospital or you know even it could be wellness services या जो भी है, health care services का demand कब आता है? Health के लिए, जब हमको recover करना होता है या हमको cope करना होता है. Chronic illness means something which is like you know which will be for a longer duration, जैसे diabetes हो गया या you know, and acute illness is something that you're suffering with right now and it has peaked. तो this basically says कि health care की demand health के कारण आती है. अगर आपकी health अच्छी नहीं है तभी आप health care services के लिए जाते हो. एवे हम simply because we enjoy health care services we don't do it. We seek it only for our health. Health then along with price, income, okay. See, okay is what you also have to do. You have to skim and scan like this. Play the main role in formal economic models of consumer decision making about healthcare. Now, is para se, after reading a para, what should you do? You should summarize it in one line, right? One or two lines में हमको summarize करना है. यहाँ पे कौन से दो lines important है? एक तो ये first line important है. And what is the second line? What is the second line which is important? The second line which is important is health, okay, is used for decision, you know, in order to arrive at models for healthcare. So यही चीज वापस कि health ही determine करता है the demand for healthcare and also it determines the economic models for healthcare. Okay, that's all. Right? इतना सा बस, that's all. Your first para is done. You don't need to memorize anything. You don't need to rattamarofy anything. You don't need to, you know, like make a lot of copious notes, nothing. Just a simple description and that is enough. Okay, I'll come to that point, Rahul. 1 minute. Yet, now these transition words are very important and a lot of these transition words have been used here. Okay, this theory takes us only so far. Matlab, again, it contributes to the fact that this theory is incomplete. It takes us only so far. Matlab, what does it mean? It will take us only to one point, not further ahead, right? It will not give us a complete analysis. It takes us only so far. Although central to demand, economic theory is agnostic, right? If you remember, we discussed this in our vocabulary classes, guys. Agnostic, unsure as to how individuals form preferences. It is suspected that individuals vary in attitudes and preferences, risk, willingness, trade-off, okay. People with the exact same economic resources may react differently to the same medical circumstances. However, these individual preferences are always never directly observed. They are difficult to measure. Healthcare prices and income too are almost never observed. Okay. Now, बहुत सारे points आगे. Students will again think, अरे how do I remember this? All you have to do is summarize it. यहाँ पे क्या है? Individuals कैसे preferences form करते हैं? Okay, that might be different, correct? But these individual preferences are never observed. Okay, so this is basically about individual preferences and never observed. So like you can put a minus sign. So आप ना खुद के ऐसे symbols use कर लेना because आपको पता होंगे कि आपने वो symbols कैसे use किए. तो मैंने यहाँ पे minus point use कर दिया, मतलब ये taken care of नहीं है या ये observed नहीं है. Okay, almost never directly observed. So if there's a question on individual preferences, you can come back and check. I always tell you guys, please make sure कि आप ज़्यादा time दो for questions and coming back and referring to the passage and then marking your answer. यहाँ पे जल्दी फटाफट पढ़ो. Just know where what is given, what is the function of each paragraph. Okay, so that if there's a question on it, you can just refer to this part and then go, okay, this para was about individual preferences. I'll read this more in detail. Third para. However, another contradictory word. Empirical studies consistently demonstrate that a wide range of socio-demographic characteristics are strongly correlated with healthcare use. So now this is talking about socio-demographic characteristics and how they are related, that too strongly related. So strongly, you know, I've underscored it, strongly related with healthcare. Okay. they rarely appear directly in the theoretical models. वापस इसको भी डिस्काउंट कर दे रहे वो लोग या इसको भी इग्नोर कर रहे, जैसे ये भी rarely observed है, ये भी rarely appear है. Socio-demographic characteristics are intended to be included in empirical models. It is believed that they are correlated. Okay, fine. Interpretation is difficult because these proxy measures are often confused है, unobserved aspects. Okay, so if there's a question कि socio-demographic characteristics क्यों नहीं consider किए जाते हैं, क्या हो गया है, आपको वैसे भी ये पैरा पे आना पड़ेगा, तो डिस्काउंट कर दो, बाकी का स्किम कर दो. Just know that this para is about socio-demographic characteristics. They also rarely appear क्योंकि कुछ कंफ्यूजन है उनको लेकर, कुछ अनऑब्जर्व्ड एस्पेक्ट्स है उनको लेकर. राइट, थर्ड पैरा डन. राइट, नाउ लेट्स कम टू द फोर्थ पैरा. इकोनॉमिक थ्योरी ऑल्सो पोजिट मतलब पोजिशन, स्टेट्स हेल्थ केयर डिमांड इज जॉइंटली डिटरमाइंड विथ सप्लाई. मतलब सप्लाई फॉर हेल्थ केयर, कितने डॉक्टर्स है, कितने हॉस्पिटल्स है, कितने डायग्नोस्टिक सेंटर्स है, कितने सर्विसेज अवेलेबल है, सप्लाई. In practice, empirical models of consumer demand are almost never jointly estimated with, again, practicality में कभी उनको consider नहीं किया जाता. Okay, वापस मतलब they are all talking about shortcomings कि how these studies are incomplete because they don't consider something. Okay, these empirical models assume that observed healthcare is equal to consumer demand. तो वो लोग सिर्फ demand को consider करते हैं. वो लोग सोचते हैं ओके 10 लोगों को जरूरत है, मतलब 10 सर्विसेज अवेलेबल है. दे जस्ट कंसिडर द डिमांड एंड दे अज्यूम दैट सर्विसेज वो सप्लाई अवेलेबल होगा, बट दे डोंट कंसिडर द सर्विस, सप्लाई को भी उनको कंसिडर करना चाहिए. रिसर्चर्स समटाइम्स ऐड मेजर्स ऑफ प्रोवाइडर सप्लाई ऑन एन एड हॉक बेसिस, मतलब रैंडम बेसिस पे, टेम्पररी बेसिस पे, रैंडम बेसिस पे असाइन कर देते हैं. बट दिस इज प्रॉब्लमैटिक. और आपको एक एग्जाम्पल दिया गया है फिजिशियंस का. टाइम नहीं है पढ़ने का क्योंकि वी हैव अ लॉट टू कवर, सो होल्ड पे रखो. इफ देयर इज अ क्वेश्चन ऑन इट वी विल कम बैक एंड चेक. हमको मेन आइडिया तो मिलता जा रहा है, राइट? व्हाट आर वी स्किमिंग, व्हाट आर वी स्कैनिंग? डिटेल्स. व्हाट वी आर टेकिंग फ्रॉम इट इज द मेन आइडिया और द मेन थीम ऑफ एवरी पैराग्राफ. हाउ देन do we decide which determinants to include in our empirical models? क्योंकि काफी सारे determinants वो लोग छोड़ दे रहे हैं, काफी सारे determinants वो लोग consider नहीं कर रहे हैं. So how then do we decide which determinants to include? How do we interpret them? Theory is by no means definitive. Economic principles can still be appealed to understanding the relationships. They also play a role. Competing concerns about usefulness of particular variables as predictors of healthcare use and potential biases they introduce must be confronted. So this is again repeating which part? The first para. How is it repeating the first para? ये क्या बोल रहा है? पहले तो question raise कर रहा है कि फिर कैसे करे, क्या include करे, कैसे उसको पढ़े. अब ये बोल रहा है it can still be appealed. They also play a role. मतलब ये नहीं कि ये सब स्टडीज बेकार है या ये जितने भी मॉडल्स आए वो सब बेकार है. नो, दे प्ले अ रोल, दे कैन बी अपील्ड टू, बट और भी चीजें, और भी वेरिएबल्स, प्रेडिक्टर्स, बायसेस, ये सब को भी हमको डील करना चाहिए. वी हैव टू डील विथ इट or we have to cope with it. It again reiterates the point mentioned in the first para. It is powerful. It should be appealed to. I'm just taking the keywords. Okay? I have not focused on every single point or every single line, definitive, economic principles, relationships. No. I'm just understanding the tone of the author. He says it's positive. It does play a role. It has to be appealed to. But overall, कुछ चीजें हैं which they should also confront or which they should also deal with or cope with. Okay, so guys, this is exactly how you have to skim and scan an RC passage. Okay, there's no other way. You cannot read every single word or every single line in such a paragraph or a passage in detail. You're not theorists, you're not statisticians. Okay, these terms might be difficult for all of us to understand, even remember for that matter. All you will remember after reading a passage is, if you're going to read in detail, the only word, 2 or 3 words that you will remember, अरे कुछ economic mention था, कुछ statistical mention था और कुछ healthcare mention था. That is not how you're supposed to read. So that's why the way we have skimmed and scanned, What do you remember from the passage now? You remember that it is powerful but incomplete. Okay, they talk about demand for health. They talk about individual preferences. They talk about socio-economic or socio-demographic characteristics. Then they talk about supply for healthcare. And last is the conclusion, which says it's powerful yet incomplete and they must be confronted. This is how you should remember the passage. Did you understand that? Clear, guys, everyone? And this is how you're supposed to read. Now, with this much reading, let's see how we can take on the questions now. Okay, so let's start. First question. Okay, so first question. Which of the following statements, if true? A very popular question, guys, in the CAT examination. If you've had a look at the CAT paper, you will see that there are a lot of critical reasoning questions. If false, if true, bhar ke. So we have to be comfortable with this. Most weakens the assumption health economists make with respect to healthcare demand mentioned in the first para of the passage. Now, complicated question, we'll simplify it. First, what you have to look at is, pehle wo assumption dhondo. What is the assumption that health economists make with respect to healthcare demand? Pehle jaake assumption dhoondte. Chalo, first para pe chalte hain. Okay, अब यहाँ पे clearly दिया है. Health economists generally assume. Okay, they have clearly mentioned it here. Health economists generally assume demand for healthcare derives from a demand for health. मगर मतलब अगर health के लिए ज़रूरत है तो healthcare के लिए healthcare की ज़रूरत पड़ेगी. Yes, Satish, it's been a really long day, you know, from 5 a.m. till, so that's why probably, but otherwise all good. Okay, so demand for healthcare from a demand for health. So let's look into this now. अब इसको हमको weaken करना है. Weaken करना है. He says demand for health derives the demand for healthcare. We have to weaken it. मतलब no, it is not just the demand for health. It could also be some other reasons. Okay, you guys are saying B. Come on. Consumers choose to avail health insurance which covers long-term severe illnesses as opposed to that which covers small ailments. Again, that means health insurance is driven by a demand for healthcare. This is in a way strengthening. The typical consumer considers health insurance mostly as a financial investment in order to avail benefits such as tax exemption on income. This is something else. This is apart from the demand for health. This says it is due to financial investment. So can I say this weakens, guys? Yes, wonderful, very good, I'm happy. क्योंकि ये passage assumption है कि health के कारण ही हम health care लेते हैं. पर ये बोल रहा है नहीं, health के कारण नहीं है, और भी कोई reason हो सकता है, जैसे financial reason है. Very good. The income of a consumer directly determines their preference of the various health insurance plans available in the market. Now, income of a consumer, individual preference, this is not even mentioned. This is irrelevant because this is not mentioned in the first para. This is not a part of the first para. Okay, this is not talking about what is the reason for the demand for healthcare. Okay, वो individual preferences वाला second paragraph में है. The extent of investment in a healthcare plan is solely dependent on the price of the plan and the earning capacity of the consumer. Now, if you compare C and D, guys, C and D बोल रहे हैं कि हम choose कैसे करते हैं. Okay, और हम लोग कैसे कितना invest करते हैं. Our thing is not कि आप कितना इन्वेस्ट कर रहे हो. हाँ, आप कितना इन्वेस्ट करोगे उसमें वो तो आपके प्लान के या अर्निंग कैपेसिटी पे डिपेंड करेगा. ओके फाइन. द थिंग इज कि पहले बहुत तो जरूरत ही क्यों आन पड़ रही है. It is not about how much you invest in that or which plan you select in that. The question is asking you, why do you even need a plan? Why is there a demand for the plan? So the demand for the plan, according to the passage, is because of health. But this says the demand for the plan is not because of health, it's because of financial investment. So that's why your answer option is B. how much you're investing in it, which plan you are selecting, that is after the demand for healthcare arises. ठीक है, फॉर एग्जाम्पल अगर आपको कोई लेट्स से आपको नहीं सॉरी एक किसी को कोई मतलब एक्सीडेंट हो गया, ठीक है, अब उसको हॉस्पिटल जाना है, अब वो कौन सा हॉस्पिटल जाएगा, प्राइवेट हॉस्पिटल जाएगा, गवर्नमेंट हॉस्पिटल जाएगा, कितना खर्चा होगा, कौन से सर्विसेज लेगा, वो चीज उसकी इनकम पे डिपेंड कर सकती है, ओके, पर उसको जरूरत क्या आन पड़ी हॉस्पिटल जाने की, दैट इज डिटरमाइंड बाय हेल्थ, ओके. So that these two options talk about कि earning capacity, that is later. But first of all, why do you need to get a health insurance, or why do you need to go to a hospital? Okay, so that's why the answer option over here is B. Got it? Clear, guys? Yes, correct. Which of the following correctly captures the difference between empirical and theoretical models in the healthcare domain? Let's look at this. So empirical refers to the statistical models or maybe the practical models and theoretical models in healthcare domain. The latter, guys, latter refers to the second one. Consider supply and demand to be mutually exclusive. However, empirical models work under the assumption that demand is mostly estimated in correlation with supply. Empirical models shed light on the verifiable determinants, both direct and proxy, whereas theoretical models, while powerful, are still an incomplete guide to the same. Empirical models regularly include socio-demographic characteristics as proxy measures. Theoretical models seldom include said characteristics. Okay, all of you are going with C. Wonderful. Let me show you this here, guys. This is clearly, अगर हम यहाँ पे देखें, these rarely appear in theoretical models. Socio-demographic characteristics are intended to be included in empirical models. So, empirical models में socio-demographic characteristics include होते हैं, but they are proxy measures. Okay, but theoretical models में नहीं होते. Okay, I will not debate much because you've got it right. So, empirical models regularly include socio-demographic characteristics as proxy measures, correct. Theoretical models seldom or hardly include the said characteristics. This is directly mentioned in the passage, correct. Okay, wonderful, very good. Chaliye, next one. While determining healthcare demand, economic theory is least likely to make which of the following assumptions? Least likely. Okay, you can also select it as the odd one out. Correct. The price of a healthcare service depends on the provider of the service. The demand for a healthcare service is dependent on the supply. People prefer a healthcare plan based on the ailment it covers. People's income and healthcare prices play a part in the demand for healthcare. Okay, now let's try it. इसमें थोड़ा सा I know like there's a confusion because it's a tricky question. So I want you to understand this. Okay, हाँ ये गलत हो गया. Okay, let's understand this. While determining healthcare demand, economic theory is least likely to make which of the following assumptions? First one, economic theory. Okay. The price of a healthcare service depends on the provider of the service. Provider matlab supplier. Okay. The demand for a healthcare service is dependent on the supply. So demand किस पे depend कर रहा है? Supply पे depend कर रहा है. Okay. People prefer a healthcare plan based on the ailments it covers. मतलब क्या आपके कितने diseases covered है, कितने ailments covered है, उस पे. People's income and healthcare prices play a part in the demand for healthcare. Now guys, I just want you to look at this, okay? You're talking about economic theory, right? You're talking about economic theory, ठीक है? अब you just go through this, okay? Economic theory is agnostic as to how individuals form preferences, okay? Individuals vary in attitudes and preferences towards risk, willingness to trade off better health tomorrow, increased consumption, okay? People with the exact same economic resources may respond differently. Individual preferences are almost never directly observed, okay? Healthcare prices and income too are almost never observed in the way we would like it. Now, where are you getting the answer for this question? Where are you getting the answer for the question? Come on. Come on, everyone. I'll tell you where are we getting the answer for this question. It is an overall question. How is it an overall question? Understand. This talks about individual preferences. This talks about socio-demographic characteristics. This talks about the supplier. Correct? This talks about supplier. This talks about supplier. This talks about individual preferences and socio-demographic characteristics. Guys, the answer option is C, not mentioned in the passage. Where have they mentioned in the passage that people prefer healthcare plan based on the ailments it covers, the coverage of the plan? Where is it mentioned? They have talked about individual preferences. They have talked about supply. They have talked about demographic, socio-demographic characteristics. So they have mentioned price. They have mentioned supplier. They have mentioned individual preferences, and they mentioned a lot of these factors. But where in the passage have they even mentioned the coverage of a plan or the ailments it covers? Where? This is not even mentioned in the passage as a determinant. So that is why least likely to make, because this is not mentioned in the passage as a determinant. So this is least likely. It's sort of irrelevant, or it's the odd one out here. So that is why the answer option over here is C. Clear, guys? You're talking about determinants, correct? So what are the determinants that you're talking about? Okay, आप कौन से determinants की यहाँ पे बात कर रहे हो? You're talking about income, you're talking about preferences, you're talking about price, okay, then you talk about the supplier. All of these determinants are mentioned. Which determinant is not mentioned, or which is least likely, the odd one out? That's why the answer option is C. But I agree, this was a tricky question. Okay, done, Sia. But we'll work over it, because see, honestly, there's not like, there are like 50, 60 different question types. So probably, you know, ये passage से ही आप सीखोगे. But yeah, I'll make a video on how you can cover these types of questions. I'll try. Okay. Next one. The author of the passage is likely to recommend all of the following steps to further economic theory in the healthcare domain, except. So mainly we have to deal over here with the last para, right? Because generally those recommendations and furthering comes in the last para. And this is also an odd one out or exception. Application of behavioral economics concepts to understand and measure consumer preferences. Usage of statistical techniques and tools to understand the impact of healthcare prices and consumer demand. Exploration of theoretical and proxy variables and likely biases they introduce. Calculation of demand for health in combination with consumer preferences, income and healthcare price. Okay. Now you tell me, what do you think? What do you think? Yeah, because I agree. Third and the fourth question are tricky, and they actually best left. Fourth one especially is trickier than the third one. Come on, think, guys. Which determinants to include? How do we interpret them? Come on. Economic principles can still be appealed to. Statistical principles also play a role. Potential biases. Competing concerns about usefulness of particular variables as predictors of healthcare use and potential biases they introduce must be confronted. Come on. Come on, guys. This is the question. Come on. I want all of you to focus on this once. Come on, everyone. Okay. Why do you say D, Sushri? If I can ask you, what is your reasoning? आपने डी क्यों मेंशन किया है? Why have you mentioned D as your answer? Okay, guys, whenever there's an exception question, I'll tell you a trick. Okay, you have to find the odd one out. So there are three options which are similar in nature. One option is dissimilar, है ना? अगर आप यहाँ पे, the answer is D by the way. अगर हम यहाँ पे A, B और C को compare करेंगे, okay, unless an option is completely wrong or glaringly wrong or all of that, fine. पर अगर confusion है in exception questions, सी ऐसा बेसिस लगाओ जहां पे आपको पता चल जाता है कि 3 ऑप्शन सिमिलर है, एक ऑप्शन ऑड वन आउट होगा, करेक्ट? अगर आप यहाँ पे देखोगे, सो इट टॉक्स अबाउट बिहेवियरल इकोनॉमिक्स के कॉन्सेप्ट्स, ओके? दिस टॉक्स अबाउट स्टैटिस्टिकल टेक्निक्स एंड टूल्स, ओके? दिस टॉक्स अबाउट प्रॉक्सी वेरिएबल्स एंड लाइकली बायसेस, ओके, करेक्ट? Concepts to understand and measure consumer preferences, impact of healthcare prices and consumer income on demand. Okay, तो क्योंकि consumer preferences ये हमारा first para था, okay, ये जो proxy variables biases ये basically हमारा third para, sorry, this was a second para, this was a third para. Okay, now look at this. Calculation of demand for health in combination with consumer preferences, income and healthcare price. Okay, first of all, are we calculating demand for health? We have to look at first thing, we have to look at demand for health or demand for healthcare. Okay, suppose you say, ma'am, we will check demand for health, we will take consumer preferences, we will take income, but calculation of demand for health in combination with consumer preferences. One more thing, demand for health that is already considered. I'll tell you 2-3 ways in which you could have analyzed this. Okay, first of all, basically our main goal is to talk about demand for health care. Demand for health is already considered. Demand for health is already considered. How will that further the research? Further मतलब अब इसको extend कैसे करना है? This is already done, right? This is something that they're already doing. This is something that they've already taken care of. ये how is this furthering? Further मतलब अभी तक जो नहीं कर रहे उसको कैसे extra ले जाए? Because clearly author is telling us this theory takes us only so far. Which theory takes us only so far? Health. This is directly given. Please look into this. Health along with price, income and consumer preferences takes us only so far. मतलब अभी तक वो क्या कर रहे हैं? They are looking at health in combination with price, income, consumer preferences. Health plus price, income, consumer preferences. Health plus preferences, income, price, income, preferences, directly that line. This was directly given in the first para that this is something that they are already doing. And this is something which is taking you only so far. The question tells us, how do you go beyond that? How do you further the theory? This is something that they're already doing. See, it's directly mentioned. वापस देखो. Demand for health, preferences, income, price. Health, preferences, income, price. This theory is already there. And this theory is taking us only so far. So how is he going to further recommend this? ये तो वो लोग already कर रहे हैं and यही तो limitation है. यही तो incomplete चीज है. तो अब further recommendation author का है कि अब आगे क्या करोगे आप? आगे क्या करोगे? आगे क्या करेंगे? सब पैराज में दिया है. देखो यहाँ पे दिया है कि वो biases confront करो. ठीक है? पोटेंशियल बायसेस वगैरह. अब आगे क्या करना है वो देखना है हमको. So the question is very clear. That's why guys always pay attention to the question stem. What is the question stem asking you to do? They are not asking you what they are already doing. They are asking you what can they do further. इसको further कैसे करें, इसको extend कैसे करें. So that is why your answer option is D. This is not furthering, this is already being done. So this is one new question type. Guys, please note it down. I hope you're maintaining a VARC tracker or a diary. Note down karo. Hamesha, if you're going wrong with the questions, it's because you're not looking at the question stem. What is the question stem asking you to do? We pay a lot of attention on the options, but we don't look at the question stem very carefully. Okay, half the job is done there if you understand it. Clear, guys? Got it, everyone? Yes, wonderful. So please mark this passage. Okay, slowly, you know, but I'm happy if you've got 2 out of 4. Great work. Okay, this is something new. This slide is something new and I want you to focus on this. Okay, right guys, we'll continue for this in the next class. Okay, अब हमारी next class होगी Saturday को and that will be a marathon. I want all of you to be present for the marathon on Saturday, 5 p.m. guys, without fail. Okay, 5 p.m. marathon. We'll be taking up all important previous year questions and we'll do a profiling of these sort of questions as well. Okay, guys, subscribe to the batches soon. Crash course launch होने वाला है, हो चुका, मतलब we'll be starting off in the second week of August से शुरू हो जाएगा batch. So जल्दी से subscribe करो, okay? And don't forget to apply the code COREMBA, because imagine if the learning that you're having here is good, imagine how much you can learn in the courses, okay? So guys, I will see you all, okay? And take care. Marathon session Saturday, 5 p.m. without fail. PYQ marathon hai guys. So be ready to face actual CAT level questions. Okay, good Ritik. Okay. Done guys. I want to see you all in the courses as well. Take care guys. 5 p.m. marathon Saturday. कल हमारी YT class नहीं होगी. अब मिलते हैं next Saturday को directly. Okay. Done guys. Take care everyone. Bye bye. Thank you so much for joining. Make sure to like, share and subscribe. But इस passage को जरूर note करना guys. PDFs आपके पास है. I always share it with you. तो इसको bookmark कर लो, note कर लो and go through them rigorously. Okay. Thank you so much everyone. Bye bye.